this is my buddy, Melanie Curtis. Some of the first conversations we ever had, I mean, obviously there was the powwow that has become sort of infamous, bunch of crazy people talking around a fire and basically curing all of the world's ills. But one of the things, because I had somebody ask, I was letting them know I was interviewing you, and she sort of remembered some of our chats from before. I'm like, yeah, she calls herself a life coach.
Mm-hmm.
and
Hashtag
I maintain very seriously, if anyone should be called a life coach in all the terms that you would think would be called that, it should be you, because you're stupidly fantastically good at it. And I've been going around asking basically all of my neighbors, anyone I find even remotely interesting, these sort of main questions from ruthlessly stolen from Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, and it's funny, like I'm really not prepared in the sense that I'm excited to be coming at this relatively without any thought. Like, I forgot what the questions are. I've read them, I think, 2 months ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
And so I don't even remember them, but I kind of like that, off the cuff answers and see what comes up.
Yeah, that's exactly, I just started sending people the questions in advance. Literally around that conversation was the first time I've done it. And they were like, oh man, like, what am I going to do? Should I make up answers? Like, you're lucky that I sent you the questions, because for the first 2 years of me in media, I would never deign, because that initial reaction, this is not, a TV segment where we got 12 minutes, actually having some quiet, a minute where somebody can actually have the space to ponder and answer in real time. I love that stuff. That's
yeah, for sure. And thank you for that wonderful intro. And just to speak to the term life coach, by the way, because I love so much to speak to that. It's, I do it on purpose. I use the term on purpose because it's so bad. It's such it's a terrible term. I really I took me forever to even get close to being cool with saying that.
Right.
For real.
Yeah.
Because I always used to think it implied that the person calling themselves a fucking life coach thought they knew everything about life. I'm like, God, that's the furthest thing duh, of course you're not an expert at life, but
right.
I'm an expert in the kind of conversation that helps people find their own answers, that really allows and creates that very powerful space of non-judgment, so people can really explore and look at what's really holding them back and design how to get through those challenging times.
Yeah, I think that the whole thing is entirely brilliant. You think about the sort of psychotherapy realm, you can only really do that if you're damaged. Right. That's sort of the idea, right?
That's the thought. Yeah.
Hacking the human mind. We're starting to learn a little bit more about it. And I know you're a freaking master at this stuff and getting better all the time. I mean, you are. I mean, the conversations we've had, this is real, right? As somebody else who loves self-effacing humor, you're a badass. Deal with it. I really love the idea that you can be proactive about it instead of just play defense all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Really I think therapy is super, super useful tool for anyone. There's lots of different avenues for us to have breakthroughs. That's the thing. Yep. I always get really, I like to speak to that too, because when people have a breakthrough in one specific way, say they work with me and they're like, holy shit, Mel's the fucking best. Oh my God, everyone has to work with Mel. That's not really the case. Not everybody needs to work with me. That just happens to be how that particular person had a breakthrough. One other person might go to Landmark Education. People go fucking nuts for Landmark. And then people are like, people are nuts. It's a cult. It's terrible. It's another avenue to have breakthrough. Other people might go and do classic therapy. They have a breakthrough. They're now champions for therapy. They might go to, I don't know, freaking some other Tony Robbins thing. And now Tony Robbins is the be all end all way to have breakthroughs. It's really just, there's loads of different ways to have breakthroughs and do the work.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. All right. So we only have an hour for this because you're too busy out there. So I want to dig into this here. First question, what is the book or books you've given the most as a gift and why?
Ooh, books I've given most as a gift. So that's a good question. The first book that comes to mind for me, whether I've given this as a gift, it's probably not one I've given as a gift.
Yeah, and addendum to the question is, you can also just say 3 books that have greatly influenced your life.
Yeah, one that's greatly influenced my life was Elizabeth Gilbert's Eat, Pray, Love, which a lot of people resonated with that story. And I definitely did. Like, I credit that. It's so funny. I had basically what I call my first enlightened, like spiritually enlightened, ecstatic moment when I finished reading Eat, Pray, Love. I was in a ski lodge or some lodge in New Zealand back in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, in this work, but new to it for sure. And yeah, it was just one of those stories that made me feel so much support, so much less alone in the world, and my challenges and my emotional trials and tribulations and my fears. And just, I love Elizabeth Gilbert as one of my main mentors, because she leads through this example of courageous self-expression and sharing of her stories as a means of connecting human beings, helping and supporting others to feel less alone and more supported. I love that.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so
Amen. That's only one book.
That's great. I mean, that's I think the why is more important than the actual book, in my opinion. And you nailed it. Okay, so yeah,
I've missed you.
What purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months or in recent memory?
What? Sorry, what?
What purchase of $100 or less most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months?
Ooh, good question. $100 or less. Oh gosh.
And it could be in that range, right? Like, we want to, like, something attainable by most people that has like an outside.
Yeah. Good question. I'm not sure. That's, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing that like instantly comes to mind for that. Mm-hmm. But what I will say is I tend to buy tickets to events that call to me.
Okay.
So like, even if I'm feeling less socially wanting to be out there, like wanting to be less socially available or out there, if something's calling to me, like, is in alignment. So going to certain book readings where I might meet a person, or going to a certain class to support a friend who I think is growing in a way that I believe in, that type of stuff.
Sure.
Dancing. Like, so I don't know if you know that I've been learning to dance.
I did not know that.
So as a professional skydiver and just person who likes physical things as a means of disconnecting from my busy brain and just being present and accessing flow and just having fucking fun, for God's sakes. Like, I've always been sort of called to dance. So I've bought, and this is a little bit more than $100, but maybe, I guess it was $100, $95. I went to this dance thing. I wouldn't say it changed my life, but it's inching me into a new community. It's having me go into an experience where I'm the new person. Right. I don't know anybody. I don't really have any friends there yet. You know, it's that brand new experience that I get to coach people through, whether it's in a life coaching sense, getting through that social anxiety fear, helping people overcome that fear,
yep,
and helping skydivers overcome the fear of being brand new in this community. They love doing this thing they want to be good at, but they're not, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's been really cool and just really fun to be learning something new that feels, you know, sexy and sensual and physical, but also technical and just has so much more detail than first meets the eye. I love that.
Awesome sauce. Okay, this is one I know you're gonna love. So, how has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? And do you have like a favorite failure of yours?
Favorite failure? Oh God! Well, they're all awesome.
And after this, we got to talk about the Zephyr Hill skydiving thing. I forgot to mention that because I met somebody who used to run it, who you might know, which is awesome. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I know. Probably. Yes, I probably know them.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah. So, well, okay. I mean, again, I don't really use the term failure. I don't really believe in that. I genuinely don't. Because
okay. So what's the language hack for that?
Yeah, I believe in the premise of this question, which is like, it's all for us. Like, my complete belief, truly, And this is how I've gotten through the hardest times of my life. So I would say the biggest thing is like going through a divorce. You know, a lot of people go through a divorce and have a major life breakdown. That was one of the sort of initiating events to a bigger life breakdown of mine, where I had to really re-identify and look at my identity breakdown and stuff like that, where I took 2 years off of skydiving, the whole thing. I had people that I loved die at that time. Like, this is a sucky, hard, emotional time where it was multiple breakdowns. So it was sort of like the quintessential, like, life completely mushroom clouds, and you have to pick up all the pieces. So it included the divorce, it included grief and death of loved ones, and it included sort of the death of my identity as a professional skydiver, because I took 2 years away from that community because I needed to. I was so burned out. So burned out. So, you know, not fully aware of like my perfectionist overachieving tendencies, which by the way led me to breakdown, which by the way led me to not having boundaries in my relationships, which by the way led me to overachieving in my work such that I didn't have balance. So all of those things I realized through that period. It was big and long and harsh and the best ever, because it absolutely, I could not ignore. And I didn't want to ignore the question of how in the heck did I get here? What did I do? And not taking on all the blame. Obviously there's situational elements, but meaning what was my part that contributed to this life outcome? Asking that question is courageous as fuck. And that's what I would suggest to all people in the face of major breakdown, is you can take so much control and empowerment back when you go, what can I learn? Like, what really can I learn? What's my opportunity here to grow?
Yeah, I love that. And so when you know, somebody talks to you about you know, a failure, using that actual term, what is a better way to couch that more easily lends itself to that belief that you have, that is so, because, and we can choose to have it, that this belief that everything is for you, the negative, the positive, wherever it is. So what's a better way? Like, if I said, hey, you know, I totally failed at this one particular thing. Like, if I'm actually using the word, what's a like mind hack or a language hack? We're like, what's the better way to say that leads more quickly to that potential belief?
Yeah, the question I would ask somebody who's using that is, I would ask them how that feels to, I would enlighten them first to, like, I would bring up and introduce the idea that certain words have energetic charge. Right? So language hack, as it were, the reason I don't use the word failure is, for me, it carries an energetic negative weight. And so I choose not to use that word. Not everybody relates to words the same way. You know what I mean? Like, you might be able to say I failed, but your perception of that is positive. It sounds weird.
I think that's pretty rare though. I think for most people,
I do too.
Right? Because I definitely see, like, I want to fail fast and fail often, but that has come from decades of learning, right?
Yeah, the only
I think most people, it's going to be a negative.
Yeah, I totally agree with you in that most people feel it energetically negative.
Right.
The reason I say that is that I am always well aware that I don't know what other people feel. Period. I just don't. I'm not you. You know, I don't have your answers. You have them. So I want to first inquire, like, how does that energetically feel to you? And introduce the idea that there might be something to consider there. Right. You know what I mean? So when people say, honey, I love you, but you didn't unload the dishwasher, right? Yeah. It negates, I love you. Anything that precedes the word but negates what you've said before it. Oh no. So we're talking language hacks. Right. So you can say, honey, I love you. And we talked about unloading the dishwasher. Those things can coexist. It sounds sort of weird, but no, that, and I haven't.
Oh man, I haven't thought about that since the last time we talked. To be honest, which is horrible, right? Just changing but and end that's intense, because it sounds entirely different. I want to reiterate it just so that people get the real point to what you just said, right? Like, it's such a silly thing, like doing the dishes. I love you, but you didn't do the dishes. Like, I feel that, and it's not a big thing, but those would add up over time. Yeah. And this is just one word. I love you, and you didn't do the dishes, right? Yeah. It's like those are two totally different things now.
And I love you is a big one. We can say something it's more simple, like, it, you know, I'm not bothered, but you said, that would be very easily read as you really are bothered, AKA you're lying to me, AKA there's trust
right.
loss there in that sentence.
Exactly. Like that's an extremely weighted thing. That, I mean, that's like, passive aggression defined basically, right?
Yeah. And so most people are unconscious to that. Another language hack, for example, is like when you say, I have to do the laundry today.
Yep.
You don't have to. You could totally not do the laundry today.
Right.
You're choosing to do the laundry today. Do you want to for some specific reason? Because it's maybe feeling like chaos in your room and there's some reason that you want that done.
Right.
It's not the most pleasant task. It's not saying, yay, I'm so fucking psyched to do the laundry. That's not what we're saying. You can certainly go there if you want. There's a practice of entertaining that as a way to experiment with stuff, with energetics around certain things.
Right.
But usually when people try to go too far beyond what they really believe, they need to believe it. Like they have to go, oh, I actually do want to because it's bugging me, or I do want to because I like having a clean house and I'm done with the clutter.
Right. I get you.
Whatever the reason is,
right.
They want to, they choose to. That's a big one when it comes to I have to, I need to, which are victim words.
Right. It's almost, and I'm just thinking in terms of, the amount of agency that you maintain or that you keep within yourself when you get to say, again, something as simple as doing the laundry, but I get to, because that becomes a pattern that is pervasive and is constant, right? Whereas you could work that agency muscle out, like, no, I get to do the laundry today, or I get to make my wife happier because I, did the dishes or whatever it is. And, you do that for a month as a test for yourself and watch how your own mind changes, right? You're going to start thinking differently probably about everything. All right. You're too awesome at this. We're going to have to be way quicker. And I could probably pare it down and pick some better questions.
We can come back and do a second iteration.
The language, I'm telling you right now, like I would love to talk about the language hacky potential all the time.
I could prep a little better for that and come up with all of them that I usually tell people.
100%. I think that would provide tons of value for me.
For all of us,
right? Yeah, this is the whole thing, right? Like I'm very, very selfishly going to share the crap out of this with everyone. I mean, because it's so huge. Okay, so this is one, and feel free to take some time on this one.
Okay.
If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, getting a message out to millions or even billions of people, what would it say and why? And it could be a few words or a paragraph. Could be a quote, whatever it is, but billboard size. Billions of people.
Yeah, that is so. I immediately thought, you are loved. Now, stay with me. There's a reason I chose those words, because if I were to say you are love, and I introduce this really high level spiritual concept, it's like too far of a jump.
It's gonna bounce.
People are like, it won't impact because it's too far away. So the reason I would choose you are loved is that people likely could connect to that if they're in a lower state, if they're really feeling scared and fearful in their life, or alone, or they don't belong, like those really baseline, fears that people can feel that make us feel disconnected from love and from others and from belonging and worthiness, right? Yeah. I say you are loved because I would want them to step up a level, which might allow them access, if they continue up in consciousness, to go the direction of connecting to a spiritual path that has them even consider that they are in fact light and love, and that's spiritual experience. Like I'm certainly in my own spiritual practice. I don't walk around every day never bothered, I'm just one ball of sunlight fucking blasting the universe.
Honestly, I disagree.
I certainly try.
I think you are that.
I certainly try.
Right.
And I believe that that's possible, and a power we can touch and reach with our effort. So I make that effort for myself and those I touch.
Mm.
But yeah, You Are Loved has served me a lot personally to inch up that ladder. And like back in the day, this is 2008, something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. A while ago, I used to write, and I don't do this I actually wouldn't mind start doing this again. I took a dry erase marker and I would write on my mirror. And so one of the things I just put "You Are Loved" in my face, like, and it just really helped me because the people that back then, when I was less in connection with my own self-love, like you are loved by me, like I love you, me talking to me. Sure. I was less connected to that idea and practice. But I did have people in my life like Shannon, our mutual friend, who I know love me. So even if it's just me connecting to like that idea of the person that I really do believe loves me, that helped, energetically supported me as I went about my day and my life.
Yeah, that's man, there's I'm having a billion ideas that I'm not going to talk about. I'm just going to do. But I'll keep you posted when it happens. All right, that's brilliant. You are loved. The very base part is that there will be a meme on Facebook by the end of the day that just says that, because I mean we've got a billboard that does that constantly. So I think that would be fun. So I'm going to make that. Okay, what's one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made? And this could be an investment of money or time or energy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, gosh, that is so difficult to answer. I immediately thought investment in terms of financial investment, like what's something I, put my time, energy. I guess anything that takes your money theoretically also takes your time and energy as well.
It can, yeah.
Honestly, removing the financial investment, even though, of course, well, I'm sort of rambling in my own head, but all the energies that I have put into nurturing and caring for my closest relationships, deepening the friendships and the bonds and the familial bonds that I have with my closest loved ones, those efforts, whether it be, and I bring up Shannon again, just because she's my best friend, and Carolyn, my other best friend, we make efforts, intentional efforts to speak to each other at a certain depth. Not always, not like it's forced, but like we have a shared integrity and intention around our friendship and the depth and desired path we're going and growth we share together. Yep. So that's a big deal. Surprising my family, showing up in person at family events. Like I was sort of pained by feeling like I was missing out on my family time for a long time. That's a big reason why I moved back to New York. I live in Jersey. Hell yeah, fuck yeah, Jersey. But in the Northeast.
Is that the Jersey state saying? Hell yeah, fuck yeah, Jersey? Because if it's not, it should be.
I love Jersey. I'm not going to lie to you. It's so good.
That's awesome.
But anyway, the reason why New York City was what really called me back to this area.
Right.
But New York City and my family. So I really wanted to move back to the Northeast because I spent so much of my years in skydiving in that community, which is also such valuable and effort that I would never trade. Right. I just knew that at a point I reached a tipping point where I'm like, I want to put more energy into my family and those relationships because I'm feeling it. I'm feeling a call to that. And I've been sort of ignoring it for a number of years. So I started to say, I'm going to actually consciously start doing this, even though it feels a little bit strange because I spent a decade plus doing other things.
Yeah. My favorite part about this question is that it immediately cracks open the definition of ROI, right? Yeah. It's really easy for people to think in terms of investments and I mean Tim Ferriss comes from the startup culture in Silicon Valley and stuff. So he's asking people that their biggest investments were like round A in Twitter and Uber, for crying out loud. So there's going to be an immediate idea to sink into those things that we probably wouldn't even feel. But at the same time, they tend to come up with answers that are more towards that as well. And I think the more conversations we have around that, the better. I mean,
that's where my brain initially went.
Right.
I mean, I went to financial.
Right. Travis, Shannon's husband, and I now run an index fund that, I mean, investment is what we do now, right? We're going to help people take part in the largest transfer of wealth in the history of mankind. But that won't mean anything if we're not considering ROI as a much bigger thing. What are the actual priorities? If you make $1 million, what are you going to do with it? And it should be around how do you spend more time with your family? How do
and
you
by the way, just to
keep in those relationships intentionally, that kind of thing.
Agreed. Just to add something to that, which I love everything that you said, what I would add for myself is that it's, for me, releasing, and as a person who aims to do good and contribute to the world and wants to be a contribution to the elevating of society, humanity, myself, all of this stuff and consciousness, I had to do some work around releasing my money story of like feeling like if it's not so good, like because a lot of people have resistance around making money. Like for some reason it's separated from being like a good person or whatever.
Right.
Versus like, no, because I'm a good person, it's actually it's a benefit to the world and to everybody that I care about, and obviously myself to make more money, but because I'm of service and coming from those values, it's good when I make money,
right. Yep.
And so that helped. And also just the ROI in terms of like literal relational ROI is this trust is like people from years ago that I met years ago was just kind to them. Now have a piece of trust that is has been building over time, whether they follow me on social media, read my blog or watch my videos or whatever. Then when they're in challenge, they come to me and they want to hire me because of that built trust and that effort that was made back then and then over the course of time without the need for any actual financial return.
Yeah, I love that. And anything that we can do to take the conversation around, finance and creating value being the point, and creating those relationships. I mean, that's what I want the future of the economy to look like, period. Right. Those things where people that are intentionally creating value are making more and more money. I think that's it's clearly the sort of ideological intention of capitalism, and one that is not always really paid attention to. So anyways, there we have that. So this is fun. What is an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love?
What? So many things.
so many times. I talk to so many people that are like, I don't really like anything absurd. Like, that's fucking boring. That's boring. And I knew you would have 10 answers to this question on the top of your head. Go on.
What do I pick? So wait, say the question again.
Okay. What is an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love?
Oh, God, that's so hard. I love all things ridiculous. I 100% believe life is comedy on so many levels. Like I find so much funny. So I think a lot is ridiculous. That's tough. I mean, Matil, my cat, she's fucking ridiculous. She's hilarious.
Yeah.
I love her. I love killing jokes. You know what I mean? Like,
I do not.
So like, for example, this is a stupid example, but I get so much entertainment for my own self out of stuff like this. Like I went to an event the other day in the city and I was walking from Penn Station up to like somewhere in the Upper West Side, which is like 34th Street to like, I don't know, 69th Street, 70th Street, something like that, 75th Street, whatever. A fair number of blocks is the point for this story, dear listeners. And so one of the funny things about New York in the summer is that there's a fucking Mr. Softy ice cream truck like every 12 feet.
Wow.
Okay. So
it's almost like they're trying to tell you something.
What? Go.
No, it's almost like they're trying to tell you something.
Oh yeah. So
it's not subliminal at this point is what I'm trying to say.
No, they're everywhere. Now I love a small soft chocolate cone with rainbow sprinkles and or cherry dip. Look, I love them. Okay. I would like to have that every time I pass one of those ice cream trucks.
Right.
However, I also would like my physical health and well-being and mental clarity, so I don't pump my body full of sugar, even though I would desire it. So stay with me. I know this is long and boring, but whatever.
It might be long. It is definitely not boring.
Okay, cool. So basically, to get back to the question of something ridiculous, so killing the joke, I don't know how many people laughed at this. I just know that the people who get my version of humor and who know me know the level of ridiculousness and what it actually took to make this joke happen. I literally I did a Facebook Live, quick 30-second Facebook Live, and said, "This is discipline, people. Mr. Softy right there. And I'm not having a cone." Then for fucking 40 blocks, I took a selfie with every single fucking truck with a stupid ass face. One was far across the street. One was right there. One was a UPS truck. Oops, sorry, thought it was a Mr. Softy. But like, I was so entertained the entire time at the idea that I would be willing to take a stupid ass selfie and put like 25, 30 comments on my own post. Like, I just think that's hilarious. Some people might be going, "Oh my God, get off social media, girl."
That is,
wake up to yourself.
That is so far from being a joke killer. So David Letterman once, as part of his monologue, tried to explain a piece of comedy that is not really well understood. And he said, "Listen, I'm going to explain this to you guys, and I'm going to say a word. And for the first couple of times, you're like, ha, ha, that's funny. And you're not even going to know why it's funny, but you're going to laugh. And then for the next few times, you're going to think that I'm the dumbest person on the face of the earth. By the 15th, 16th, 17th time, you're going to be laughing your butts off, and you're not even going to know why." All right? And so he said that word is spaghetti. Right? And that's the thing. So the crowd is like, spaghetti is funny. Right? And so he starts talking about his monologue or whatever. And then, and then this person ate some spaghetti. And you're like, "Ha, that word is a funny word."
Came back.
Seriously, by the 5th time, people are like, "No.
It's not funny anymore, dude. Like, it's over."
You were right. That's dumb. We've heard this word too many times. By the end of his monologue, basically number 17 or whatever, he says spaghetti, and literally the crowd's like ripping up, and they have no idea why. It's just completely, totally bent over backwards.
What did Letterman say?
All he said was spaghetti.
Yeah. So what I love about that is there's a willingness to look really, 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 really stupid. Like, seriously.
Yep.
That's why I love it, is that not everybody's going to find that funny. There are going to be people that go to, "Oh my God, enough already. Wow. Don't you have better things to do?" Like, whatever. But there are going to be some people that die laughing. And that's what I get obsessed and weird about, is comedy like that.
I love it. And the thing, and you almost wish that you could reach those people that are clearly not living in the moment. Like,
and it's okay. Like, if not everyone's going to find what I find funny. It's all good. It's just.
But I think the right people will find it funny. I think it's
that's the idea of magnetizing your people. Like me being committed to making jokes that are truly in alignment with me.
Yeah.
I know that people that will be inspired by me and my content will like that stuff. And so I know it's of service to them, and even of service to the people who don't like it, because then they'll go spend their time with someone else, which is great.
Win-win. 100%. Okay, so in the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
5 years. Ooh. Okay, so last 5 years have been good. Okay, so the biggest thing is really understanding how to affect and communicate boundaries. So that was a huge breakthrough that I had through my period of like real challenge and life breakdown, is that a big part of it was that I didn't really understand how to have boundaries with other people, right? So I knew how to take care of other people. I knew how to perform. I knew how to connect and love and lots of things, but I didn't really have the self-care piece dialed. I understood it logically, but I didn't understand it and have a good handle on it in practice. Like, I was still afraid of disconnection and rejection, right? So I had real trouble having boundaries with other people. I was afraid of conflict. So that fear of conflict, rejection, and sort of disconnection from other people really had me blocked from being able to communicate and have boundaries and feel perfectly happy having boundaries and knowing that's a good thing. So that's the biggest one for sure.
Okay. That's perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So what advice would you give to a smart, driven college student about to enter the real world? And this is kind of a more interesting question. What advice should they ignore?
Ooh, yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, again, I don't tend to give advice, which is interesting. My first thought would be to ask them sort of what they're planning on doing. Like I would question them. I would ask, like, what are they going to do? Are they going to do a job? Why are, that's like inquire in terms of the impetus or the reason for their direction.
I think even that, I'm sorry to stop you there, but I think the finding out, like, you're basically posing the question, not only what are you doing, but why are you doing it?
Yeah, right? That's totally it. And
as a piece of advice, that is like a kind of an ultimate thing, right?
Yeah,
a lot of people are going to have a lot of different forms of advice. What are you thinking? But then asking the question, why are you thinking that way?
Yes, I love that. The thing I would have them ignore on the heels of that is so asking and going to the Simon Sinek why, like, what's your why?
Yep.
As young people, we don't fucking know ourselves that well.
Right.
I didn't know who I was back then. We're growing, we're changing. It's cool, right?
Yeah.
So if we don't necessarily know the answer to why, there's lots of just think positive, like stuff out there, which I think I get labeled that a lot. Like I'm just some positive thinker and it's just whatever without basis. That doesn't work. It has to be something we actually believe. So if a college kid has asked the questions of what's my why, and you've got the section of them that has a connection to it and they feel emotionally motivated and inspired by that why, for whatever reason, whether it's the workforce, entrepreneurial thing, whatever, great. Then there's the other section of the college collection cohort that is like, I've asked the questions, I don't fucking know because my parents told me to, because you get a job, right? Like if they're in this sort of, I don't know what my why is or what my purpose is, right? Because that's a big thing. Like find your purpose, right?
Yeah.
Like do what you love.
What does that even mean at that point?
Right. So if you don't know, that's the idea, is that I would say to ignore that. To ignore you have to find your purpose and do what you love. If you don't know what that is, take some kind of action that's in a direction of a curiosity. That's it. Just something that sparks you a little bit, like, oh, that's curious to me. Yeah. Take some action in that direction and see what happens. Maybe something, maybe nothing, but that's something that can get you learning more, that gets you more and more information that might inform you about what you are feeling more purposeful and deep about.
Okay, and to add to that, one of the last Tim Ferriss episodes that came out was with I think she wrote the Dragon Parent book or whatever, but I'm not entirely sure. All I know is she runs one of the most successful investment firms on the face of the earth, and she's just an unmitigated badass. Like she's really, really intense. One of the things that Ferriss sort of like teased out of her is that she basically went to med school, quit. She went and did this, and she quit. She went, and the point that he brought up, and this is so critical, is that she never got caught by the sunk cost fallacy. The whole idea that I'm doing this thing ipso facto, I must do this thing, otherwise, like, I might piss off my parents, or like I might look like a quitter, or whatever, right?
Yes.
She's gonna be a billionaire because she was doing those things. She was moving the directions of what her parents thought she should do, but then she was constantly diving into these things that she was curious about, and ruthlessly doing that, and finding a dead end, and ruthlessly cutting that off and finding something else, to where she really found where she was most curious and most fascinated and most fulfilled, and where her superpowers kind of naturally developed.
I love that. The sunk cost fallacy is a total thing. Absolutely. And that's the thing, to reframe that, it's that those actions, even if they theoretically don't deliver anything, they totally are. We know more about what the directions we don't want to go. It's very valuable to know that.
Yeah, that's intense. All right. So what are bad recommendations you hear in your profession or area of expertise? So like life coaching.
Do what you love.
Life coaching.
I buy into that, but yeah, go ahead. What were you saying?
Yeah. So what are bad recommendations? So just be a crappy life coach for a minute.
Oh God. It's, it's funny, like when you're learning to get an accelerated free fall rating, which is a skydiving rating to take people who are learning to skydive, you get what's called an AFF rating.
Okay.
And in order to do that, you have to basically jump with someone pretending to be a student, like a good skydiver who's faking being a bad student.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So hard to do that. It's so hard to do that. You have to like plan ahead. You have to be like, okay,
I'm going to screw this up and I'm going to screw
life coach would do.
Okay.
This is legit. Is they would bring their agenda to the call. They would, in the back of their mind, think they know what's best for a person. It might be subtle. They might be like, I know it. I got this person's number. I know what they're doing. I know what they're feeling. I just have to wait for them to get it. That is going to insert an energetic with that client that has an undertone of judgment and disconnection, which never serves and never feels like love, which is a big problem. So I would really say that whole like thinking you know the answer to someone else's stuff, however experienced I may be, I am firm. I might have things to introduce. I'm always going to introduce ideas. I'm always going to share about my intuitive strikes when they come up and say, hey, it sounds like this. But I'm always asking, it sounds like this. Like, am I on point? Correct me if I'm wrong. And I mean it. Every time I say, correct me if I'm wrong, I fucking mean it.
Yeah.
I want them to correct me if I'm wrong.
Amen to that.
I want them to feel seen and heard and understood and safe to be whatever they are. So that's the thing, like bad life coaches bring in judgment and choice around, what they think is best for a client and the path they think a client should take.
What struck me about that is that, I've always gotten the sense that, you talk about flow and, I'm always fascinated with that as far as, that's, I got an accidental introduction to that with music. It strikes me, even the way you were thinking about, advice to a college student, your go-to wasn't advice. Your go-to was to be imploring and ask questions. Yeah. And it seems to me that, you're going to allow yourself to get into an intense level of flow with the direction that conversations that you're, engendering professionally are going to be leading into, that if you had an agenda going in, you'd probably get knocked out of any potential for that. Right? You're not going to be able to really connect with what because your listening motor is going to be turned off or whatever it is. Right. Yeah. As like, playing music. If you think about, if I'm thinking about anything, I'm not in a state of flow. Right?
Yeah, it's funny. Even saying like bad life coach, I don't even really believe that, because there's a part of me that genuinely, universally believes that life coach doing that, like that way of being right then is serving them. Like they'll get results from their clientele.
Right. It's not the work. They're still doing the work. They're just
that serve them to grow. They might feel disconnection. They might be led to question, why am I feeling disconnection? Why am I, or are my clients not getting results? Right. Which would be of service to their ultimate ability to make people. And again, this is just what's worked for me. Like some other people might really respond to tough love. Clients of mine don't, because they're not going to get that with me. I won't do that because I don't believe in that. You know what I mean? But for other people, maybe they really like just, and they need at a certain point in their trajectory of growth, someone to just tell them before they can own their own decision-making and stuff like that. And that's okay too. Maybe. That's where coaching or consulting or whatever comes in, and that's all good.
Right. All right. So, yeah. Good talk. Good talk. Okay. So in the last 5 years, what have you become better at saying no to? And I think this kind of goes back to one of the other questions. What new realizations and or approaches helped. And so basically, we're obviously hearkening back to, being able to set boundaries anyway. Yeah. So let's maybe dive into what are some specific things that, like some kind of top things that you said no to, you created a boundaries that had an outsized effect on the rest of your life.
Yeah, I have gotten extremely better at not engaging people that feel toxic to me. I am super trusting of my own energy and read on a person and a situation. So if I feel a toxic energy and it's not at a level of trust where it's like something to clear and sort of a trusted friendship or an opportunity to deepen a bond with someone that I feel has earned that trust of that type of conflict conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
I've gotten way better at just not engaging toxic situations or people, period. I just remove myself from those things, which I
Denied.
was so sucky at before.
All right.
And I know it's okay. I don't feel bad about it. I'm not hating on people. I send them love and light for real. Like as a human, I send people that love, and I can have compassion for all people's life experience and no judgment for it. I just can judge for myself. This is what I want close to me, and this is what I want away from me. Simple as that.
Brilliant. All right. So when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused or have lost your focus temporarily, which I know has never happened to you personally, but
never.
what do you do? And this and one of the little parentheses he does, and then honestly, like I'm coming out of a really sort of ridiculous, unproductive downturn, and it's hilarious we're having this conversation now because it's just sort of pouring gasoline on the fire.
You've been coming out of an overwhelmed time.
Yeah, just like where we've been going through a bit of an unfocused. I have been doing that, right? Like I've got a lot of stuff to do. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm just like I don't know where to start, and then I feel crappy about that, and then I don't do anything, and then it's the
right
of dog crap, right? But things are obviously in motion now. But I'm excited about when this conversation actually ended because we planned this 2 months ago. Because it really is like gasoline on the fire, and I'm having ridiculous numbers of ideas. But so assuming that it was a month ago, and or a time that you're feeling overwhelmed or unfocused, what do you do? And this is so if helpful, like what questions do you ask yourself? Like that.
Yeah.
That sounds like how does that pattern get interrupted for you?
Yeah. So I want to say a few different things. So the first thing, excuse me. Pardon me. The first thing is, so back in the day when I was doing the professional skydiving, traveling around the world, like, it was awesome. Wouldn't trade it. I was building my life coaching business. So I'd go to an event, whether it's in the US or abroad, coach skydiving for multiple days, come home, life coaching clients, then get on another plane, go to another event. So like really intense, like very, very full on time. And I was doing things I loved, right? So it was good stuff. I loved all of it. And yet I still felt super overwhelmed. I was always was consistently feeling like I don't have time. I'd forsake sleep and yada, yada. So debunking the idea, I've been doing a lot more speaking and on mindset skills and talking about affirmations and stuff like that. Because I debunk these life coachy terms, right? Of like, what is an affirmation? Oh, Stuart Smalley, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, gosh darn it, people like me. But it doesn't work when we don't feel it, right? We've talked about that. So what I did, and this is years ago, I came up with this series of affirmations. I was like, okay, I'm overwhelmed. Okay, overwhelm is fear that I won't, whatever, something bad will happen. So it's fear. So I was like, okay, fear's an illusion. Okay, overwhelm is an illusion. So that was one. And that wasn't enough. Like, okay, overwhelm's an illusion, but I've still got tons going on. Didn't work. Overwhelm is an illusion. So the next thing was, I don't have enough time. So I just sort of work on that. So I was like, the next affirmation in this series of 4 was, I always have time for what's really important. Like I could always cancel a client if I had to go, see my family in the hospital or something. Like I always would have time for what was really important, period. Yeah. So it was like reframing like what I was placing supreme importance on. Like I put it on everything versus sort of prioritizing in my mind. So that overwhelm is an illusion. I always have time for what's really important. The last thing was, this is not going to last forever. So the third one was, I am grateful for this period in my life, implying that I knew it wouldn't always be like this. There's no way this would be forever. Like I just sort of intuitively knew that I'm growing into something. I won't always be doing this whole crazy skydiving thing. I won't always be doing whatever. I'm grateful for this period in my life. And then the last thing, which really grounded me was, so it's overwhelm is an illusion. I always have time for what's really important. I am grateful for this period in my life. I am grateful for this moment. So that if I just jumped to, I am grateful for this moment, it did not work. It was like you are love being too far. So
Right.
we don't want to put you are love on the billboard because people are like, what? Some fucking fancy schmancy, whatever she's thinking. Right. And it disconnects. So for me at that time, I am grateful for this moment didn't really help. It only helped in the series. So I would invite people to really look at what are they really worried about and what series, use mine if you want, but I put that thing into my to-do list and I read it every single day for like 8 years. Seriously. So the frequency of these thoughts that work. So I felt the emotional release when I came up with these ideas, and I read them and I inserted them into my brain with frequency to rewire my shit. You know, I did that work. Frequency, Post-it notes, fucking markers on the mirror, whatever, you know, so that's one big thing. I could go on. I have more things, but
no. And we can get into some more things, because that, again, like the main point with this is I just want to bring as much value to other people as humanly possible. And you're bringing truckloads, like giant dump trucks. Anyway, so okay, where is my head on that? Oh, so again, I think I'm gonna have to avoid becoming just a total Tim Ferriss fanboy, but I just at one of my networking groups, I used one of his quotes. It's basically and I'm gonna paraphrase or whatever, but it basically says, you know, people that think they don't have enough time just don't have priorities.
Correct.
Right. And that really, you know, the second that you crack your mental schedule open enough to start asking, okay, what are the actual priorities going on, and creating, you know, whether you're writing lists or whether you're just constantly thinking about it or whatever, you get to focus more and more on the things that are actually important to you instead of the things that are just happening because of whatever momentum is going on in your life. And then adding on the fact that, you know, you probably weren't very good at the whole boundaries thing, which I mean, that's how I burnt out last year. You know, I was literally saying yes to everything, and, you know, wasn't really focused on, you know, the why, the point, you know, what we're actually building. So I hadn't got to that point where I could start intelligently saying no to things that weren't fitting into what I wanted to move forward on.
And that's the other thing I would share, is that when I start to feel overwhelmed, I now recognize, and I've learned that it's good and okay to pare down. Like, I'm not failing. There's nothing wrong. It's not that I suck because I can't do it all, right? The perfectionist wants to pipe up when I start to feel overwhelmed too. So I've learned to diffuse that and really say, okay, you know what, right now I need to do this only. I need to not go to social events this week because I have a huge writing project, which I now have learned takes a lot of my creative energy, you know, or whatever. Or I want to go to this social event because I know I'm going to want people and social energy. So that's going to make it on the list. And I'm going to maybe give myself a couple extra days to finish, you know, whatever other thing I'm working on. So it just depends. But yeah, it's that clarity around, I had to really learn like where the breakdown points would come, because they came multiple times. You know how it is. You take on too much and then you get sick. People probably have this experience a lot. They'll take on too much and then their body forces them to break by getting sick. You're going to have to rest at some point. You might as well choose it. And it's just and understand that it's a process to learn what that looks like for each of us. You know, like, I need a certain amount of sleep, and I finally get that.
Yeah, that's huge.
I finally realize that sleep for me is the miracle drug. Like, oh, I need it. Yeah. And it's good. I'm glad that I care about that now.
Yeah, that's so important. Yeah, I actually got pneumonia, which, I mean, that to me, I had never experienced an illness, because I mean, it took 3 months where you're so worn out that I would like get up off the couch and walk to the kitchen and have to sit down on the floor in the kitchen.
Yeah.
There was nothing. Which
totally get it.
Was super scary. It's like it now, granted, every time I think about it now, I'm like, I can stand up, do jumping jacks if I want. I don't give a shit. Which is like, and it's you know, that I have a lot more respect for my own, energy level now. Because I really got to see what being 100 is going to be like, and it fucking sucks. It's not.
Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah, and it's just the thing. I invite people to be gentle and kind to themselves when they're taking things on, and also to check their expectations on how long things will take, how much energy it takes, how much what they think things will look like, how long. Like there's lots of expectations that can hide and make us upset, which then magnifies our inability to perform and connect, which also then magnifies our ability to, produce results in the ways that we're looking for in the ways we described earlier.
Yes. All of that.
All of that.
So that is the end of our
I know. Did we get through how many questions are left?
No, that's the end of the questions.
Woo!
Yeah. And we managed to come in under an hour. We managed to expand on a bunch of really cool stuff. I'm having like an idea every 2.5 minutes about, how this content should get out in the world. So I'm super fascinated with LinkedIn for the last little while, because it's basically Facebook for business people.
Cool. Yeah. You can teach me some about that maybe sometime.
It really just get on there and look around. I mean, like Facebook is obviously, both devolving and evolving at the same time, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, on there, it really, and now granted, like I'm looking for, as far as professionally, I'm looking to connect with anybody in the cryptocurrency space, anybody in the blockchain space, anybody really, in the investment space. Travis and I are putting on the real estate blockchain summit here on the 25th of September, which is going to be amazing.
25th.
Right?
Tell me.
I think it's just off 50 at a hotel. We just finalized all the details, so we're getting that stuff squared away. But yeah, it's gonna be small. Like there's only gonna be 60 people there, but we're gonna be having most of the influencers in the real estate market here. We helped the guy that did the first digital close in Florida. We helped him do a $2 million Ethereum to USD close on a house last week. Right. So I think there's a lot more stuff going on with that stuff. But yeah, like networking into LinkedIn, it's crazy. So like getting into all the professional stuff and, meeting people that, are using that network intentionally and intelligently, frankly, like it's just it's a more value rich environment. So part of what I want to do with this is to basically like chop it up into segments. I'm going to release the whole thing as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is where, LinkedIn in that environment is where I want this. Cause obviously I think the most value that I can do for you is throwing this content out, because people will use it. That's the thing, right? Like it's going to be on Facebook. It's going to be all over the place normally or whatever. But the people that I want to share this with on LinkedIn, they're going to be the most fertile ground where this kind of stuff can help them. So I'm really, really excited.
All channels. Yeah, for sure. I mean, for my peeps watching this, it's like for sure anybody looking to get into the cryptocurrency stuff and have questions, definitely connect with Corey and Travis for sure.
That's what we do.
Yeah. And it's cool because like I'm doing more and more speaking. Like I'm doing more and more educating, like going into companies and teaching my stuff, engaging people in coaching style conversations about certainly the stuff that we talked about today, but more stuff like that. So that's pretty exciting for me too, given the one-on-one work has been a lot of my focus for a long time, and just some teaching here and there, but like being able to make a bigger impact by doing keynotes and by leading sort of training and education, continuing education for companies and teams. Yeah. It's such a good place for me because I did it so long in skydiving and I've done it so long sort of in the private space. It's just exciting and cool to be able to contribute in a new way and grow as a professional in that way as well. Yeah. But yeah, it's cool. Ugh.
Yeah, we're getting into more of that as well. There's just one of the ladies at at the networking group that I'm a part of. She's awesome. When I first got into, I changed my seat over to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, which of course had never happened before. So already people are like, well, I don't even know. She was sitting right next to me when I made that announcement. She's like, I don't know about that Bitcoin thing. I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. You will eventually. It's not, I'm not in a rush. But that same lady 4 months later, it's like, hey, is it okay if I take you around to all the real estate companies that are around here so that you can teach them about blockchain? Because it's her way to backdoor her mortgage company to those places. And I'm like, that is validating as fuck is what
absolutely
that's pretty. And I knew that stuff was coming, but it was really, really cool when it did. And so we're moving in that direction as far as going out. I wanted to ask you, do you listen to Gary Vee at all, his podcast?
Fuck yeah, I love Gary Vee. I think he's amazing. People who listen to him in small doses can probably think he's intense and he's crazy, he never sleeps, but really if you listen to him holistically, he's got it dialed.
I'm obsessed. I'm absolutely obsessed.
Excellent, full of knowledge, huge a contribution to this world. I'm a huge fan.
100%.
Yeah.
And what made me ask the question, you're talking about all channels all the time, right?
Yes, all channels all the time.
Because it's true. Because you never know which thing. And that's honestly, him talking about LinkedIn is why I wanted to I saw LinkedIn years ago. It literally meant nothing to me. I had no viable connection to it whatsoever. And I go there and it's just like, there's like nuclear bombs of value going off all over the place. I'm like, okay, this is
excellent.
Fun. But you never know what's going to be next, right? So it really, is going to take, he talks about working 15 hours a day, and producing the kind of content that I know I not only can produce, but need to start producing in volume, which is going to take up a lot of time until I can afford to have 10 people following me around with the video cameras, which is what he's doing so effectively.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing about energy and like I wake up every day and I'm energized. Yeah. I work, not every day do I work 15 hours a day, but I work a lot, but I like to. I'm a lot like Gary Vee in that sense because I have the energy to. If I were like just burning myself out, I'm now well aware what that feels like. Mm-hmm. I now know what burnout feels like. So I know when to press and be like, okay, this is where I'm going to press a little bit extra beyond self-care, but I know I'm going to scale it back. It's just that awareness, that self-awareness that he talks a lot about, super big when in anything. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on and on. But one thing I'll say before we go is I love that with you and the crypto and the blockchain stuff, it's like you are me 10 years ago with the term life coach. It's more and more received now.
Yep.
Right. It's much more received now than it was. But like my point is like, it's a similar experience of people who are taking on something new that they believe in, that they really believe is going to help make positive change and impact humanity and other people singularly and holistically. It is often met with fierce rejection at first.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And it's been really fun watching the transition, even, just in the last 6 months. But this technology is going to dominate, most of the sectors of the world of business and government in ways that people don't even really understand yet. And we're knee deep in this thing in ways that we don't even understand yet.
I love it.
The conversation is getting cracked open about, how we can actually, trade value or governance or any of these different kinds of things. So yeah, at the risk of nerding out for another hour on this.
I know. I love you. Thank you, my friend. Man,
thank you very much for doing this. This is it's definitely pouring gasoline on the fire. And